Good
Good
afternoon. All right. So I had a question
All right.
because I was looking at, hold on, I gotta find it. Email yesterday. I think it's this one. No. I can't find it. I was reading it last night. So it was, what's this one?
Just a minute. Come here.
Yeah,
Right on. Right on. Come here. Hey.
it's this one.
Arlo, come here. Right on. Okay.
So basically what I've been doing is for the emails that come through, I like from Nancy and Zoe for like different requests and stuff.
Yep.
I've been going back, like going through the email thread and reading like the very first question,
Okay.
and to see if I can understand what they're talking about.
Right.
And so this one, I think it came from Zoe on January 25th. And she asked Twirl, why is the cap TCP GPH average red? Should it be green?
Yep.
So that question there, like I don't even know which file to look in to answer that. I know the question is directed at Toro, right? But that's my question. So I mean, because where I am right now, because on the Excel side, I've got no problems with Excel. I've got no problems fixing or playing around, tinkering with the actual code. Like I can work that out. But for me, what I am like, where my focus is translating what they're saying into where to go in the file.
Okay. All right. So let's get our magic.
Because then you provided an answer, right? DMA for USA was changed to 72, but the average cell you're talking about is not a USA number. So clearly you know where to look, but I don't.
Yep.
And so that's what concerns me.
Okay. Well, let's handle some of that. Okay. Let me just bring this up. Okay. Okay. Let's. All right. So let's share the screen. So I'll show the screen. Let's share the right screen this time. Okay, and then why won't that come up? Oh, maybe it's up and it just needs to do a new file. There you go. Okay, so if we look at the files, what we really want to look at is the conversations, right? Because the files are distributed inside a conversation, and there's one conversation that lasts the whole year.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, got it.
The context for all of Zoe's requests, particularly questions about files, the context for that question is the conversation that it's in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So there's one email that Toral sent at the beginning of the year with one file in it. And each week she updates that conversation with the new file of that species for that week. And she never mixes them, so she won't send two different files in one message unless those two files belong together.
Okay, got it.
Like
So I
if
understand
it says,
that.
I want to change the minimum acceptable for guests per 100 for the access to power, and it affects 4 files, Tora will update the 4 files, but she won't attach those 4 files to Zoe's request. She'll update the 4 conversations where those files get updated.
Hmm.
So one of Toral's rule is don't cross conversations.
Got it. So the
So the context for
yeah.
the files. So for the files, the context equals the conversation that file exists in. Let me just show you specifically what that means. So if I bring up the statistics, so these are the TCP statistics. Well, it'll take a moment to update it, but here we go. So these are all the messages that get sent to TCP statistics. So if I take a look with the conversations that came from Toral, I'm just scrolling through. So here are the 7 conversations that she sends out each week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there are 7 conversations that she sends out on the weekend.
Right.
And so if I take a look at the Monday files, right?
Mm-hmm.
He sends out the preliminary leader results. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And if I go to my conversation to a Monday, see, this is that conversation. Okay? So on Monday, she sends out the leader results, and so the conversation equals that, right? And if I take a look at the file attached to that conversation is this one.
Okay, so basically what I should be doing is looking at the subject line.
So what you should be looking at is the subject line. Whoops. So this is the...
Yeah. So if I go back to this particular question from Friday, January 25th from Zoe, the subject is course leader results, final.
Okay, so let's find that one. So on Monday she sends out the remember over the weekend they're courses, and on Sunday night each of the course leaders sends in their preliminary results. On Monday, Toral compiles those results into a single file called the 2019 Course Leader Weekly Results Leader File Report. And she updates this conversation, Course Leader Results Preliminary 2019. Okay? Then on Friday, the conversation is, let's find the conversation for Friday. Toral is this tea, the brown tea. Okay. Whoops, that's the preliminary. What day was the 28th of January? So I need to...
That's Monday.
Monday. So Friday would have been
25th.
25th. So let's see what I have for the 25th. Okay, so here's the course leader results final conversation. All right, so the conversation is course leader final results, and the file is this course leader weekly results. So the course leader results final, she sends the same file, but it's updated. Remember, that file has a preliminary section at the top and a final part at the bottom. All right. And then she also sends out on Friday this one. Let me just see if I can get this 2019. So she also sends out the leader report and the management. Okay, and the leader report, that goes there, and this goes there, and this goes there, and this goes there. And so the conversation for the management report is this, whoops. Okay? And the file is two files. This one okay? And file this one. All right. And so maybe I should do. Two files, and this is one of the files, and this is the other of the files. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So in that conversation, she sends out two files. So then on the weekend, she sends out 7 conversations. So let's look at those 7 conversations. Sorry I know this is really hard to follow, but I'm going to just get to the right spot in the.
No, that's fine. So so when you say the weekend, is there a specific day, or she just kind of?
Remember the centers send their end of week report. The center's week ends local time 3 o'clock.
Right.
And then by 5 o'clock local time, they send in their final statistics for all manner of things.
Mm-hmm.
Number of guests at every event, number of registrations at every event, number of attendees at every event, number of people who called in, number of people registered on the website, just literally hundreds of different bits of information. And they send that in local time 5 o'clock, and it starts at Auckland 5 o'clock, and then 19 hours later in Los Angeles, Seattle, Los Angeles, San Diego, San Jose, San Francisco all send in their reports.
And this is on Friday.
That's on Friday, which for Toral shows up sometime Saturday morning.
Okay. So the numbers that they're reporting, right? Because the week ends at 3. So this is for the week that just ended.
Yep.
Okay.
So she gets the report sometime during the day Saturday, and it needs to be in New York by the time people show up for work Monday morning.
Mm.
So we say 9 o'clock New York time, Monday is when they're due. Which for Toral is sometime Tuesday afternoon.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
All time zones.
So she literally has most of her day Saturday, all of her day Sunday, all of her day Monday, and some of her day Tuesday to get the report done.
Mm.
Okay. So the 7 report, so
the report is actually published by Friday at 9 a.m. or sorry, Monday at 9 a.m.
Right. So there's the World Headquarter Result Report Check. There's the combined reports. There's the Communication Course Results Management version. There's the course rollout and schedule.
So if these are published at Monday at 9 a.m., the deadline for people submitting their data is a lot sooner than that. No?
No, the data comes in at Friday afternoon.
Right, because by 5.
Yeah, so, well, it gets to World Headquarters by 5 o'clock. I mean, depending on the speed of the internet, it could be a few milliseconds after 5 o'clock if they wait
Right.
last minute. And then World Headquarters has about 3 hours worth of work to do. So sometime between 8 and 9 p.m. Friday night, the World Headquarters sends out the worldwide week results. to everybody, including Toral. So Toral gets it sometime her Saturday morning.
Right.
There's no more input. The only input for these 7 reports is the world headquarters results.
And so from that report, that's where we extract our 26 columns?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
So basically, we're just waiting on one row of data?
Well, one for each course. So some weeks there's none, and some weeks there's 12.
Right, right. However, yeah, however many courses there are, but it's basically that's all we're extrapolating out of that,
Yeah.
out of that set that comes out.
Yeah. So so the 7 reports we get are the World Headquarter Leader Resort file, the combined reports, the management version, the course rollout and schedule, the course leader coaches next 6 weeks, the TMOP display, and the report files for the executives. Okay? And the first 6, the file is the same. For this one, the file is World Headquarter Leader Result Check. Okay? For the combined reports 2019, it's the 2019 combined reports. For the management version, it's a management version of the report. For the course rollout and schedule, it's a course rollout and schedule. For the course leaders next 6 weeks, it's the next 6 weeks. For the TMOP display, it's the TMOP display. For the report files for the executives, there are 4 of them. So for this one, there's 4 files. The CAPE CPC Plus, the current quarter game, the intent 2019, the intent 2019, and the pre and post implementation.
And Toral creates these?
Yep. Well, I can tell you didn't do your homework. Because if you'd run those macros, you would know exactly the answer to your question.
Right.
See, the combined reports file, I'm going to put that up at the top. This combined reports file puts out all of the rest of the reports. So this file, when Toral runs this file,
Yeah.
when she runs the save small of this macro, it spits out the leader report check, the management version, the course rollout and schedule, the course's next 6 weeks, the TMLP display, the since implementation, the current quarter game, the intent, and the pre and post implementation.
Can you adjust the mind map so it actually reads that way, so that those others are a derivative of the combined report?
Well, I could, except it would screw up the intent of this message. This is the conversation. So on the weekend, she sends out these 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 conversations. And the files for each of those 7 conversations all come from the combined reports. That's the mind map we did last week. But these 7 conversations have these files as their attachment. So if you want to see what file to look at, the place to start is exactly as you said. The place to start is the conversation in which she's making the request or the statement of correction. Okay. So
All right.
So go back to, you started out, Zoe had a question about some average, and what conversation did it occur?
All right. So just so it's, I mean, ultimately this mind map is for me,
Oh, yeah.
right? So if you could actually arrange those reports so that they're a derivative of the combined report, that's how my brain's organizing it.
Okay, just let me just see. So what I can do is, okay, and now I'll bring the zoom down a little bit.
Well, you don't actually need to change the shape. It just, because if that one report has a macro that creates all of the others, I just need all of those others to come out of that one bubble. I don't need them to be different shapes. It's actually confusing.
Okay, so I'll sort it out for you. These are days.
Yeah.
These are conversations. So there are 7 conversations.
No, I got that.
2,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7 conversations done on the weekend. All of the files for those 7 conversations all come out of that macro.
Yeah. And so that's all I'm asking. So those other bubbles, instead of all of them coming out of weekend, all of those other ones just come out of the combined reports.
I will do a different display for that. But these are conversations. So all of those conversations do not come out of the combined reports conversation. They do not.
But the files do.
The files do. So I can make a new display for this. So I'll copy all of this stuff. Okay, and then all of these combined reports, management version, coaches. Come on, behave yourself. Behave yourself. There you go. So now as a file, the combined reports file puts itself out plus all of these other reports. So all of these are, where do I add a note, add a call out. The combined report master dot xlsb produces all of these files when the save small macro is run.
Yeah, so I'm not trying to be difficult, but all of that could have just been done on the original one.
Except the original one shows conversations, and the conversation called weekly TMLP display is not a derivative of the combined reports conversation. They are very, very separate, and you will get screwed up if you think of the TMLP display as anything except its own entity. Now, the fact that the attachment for that conversation was produced by a macro that put out other attachments is at best interesting, but the other display, the other window, where's my other window? Where's my other window? Where's my other window? Where's my other window? Oh, it's down here. Oh, I don't want this window. Where's my other page? View. The place to, maybe you can see it. Where's my other page? Oh, here's the inspector. Oops. Maybe, page. I really screwed it up. Where do I find my other page?
I don't know, brother.
That's the page window. Bring all to the front. This is the only window.
Probably down in the lower left corner. It has
here.
an indication for page.
Lower left corner. There's my other page. Okay? So these are all conversations. These are all conversations. So there's 7 different conversations. But all of the files for those 7 conversations are produced by one macro. And so all of these files, all of the weekend files are produced by that one combined reports master file. Okay, so go back to your original question. How do you go back to the email that you were referencing at the beginning of the call?
Mm-hmm. So, well, the subject is, it actually, the subject line has the file name.
Okay, what's the file name?
Course leader results final 2019.
Okay, all right, so the course leader results final, let me just open that, then we can open that file and take a look at what she's talking about. So the final report is produced by the course leader results master leader version rather than the management version. Let me explain something about the management version. There's the results that the leaders report. And that report can either be very early the night of Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. So it'll be, early Wednesday morning, early Thursday morning, or early Friday morning, the night of the evening session. And then the center sends in their results on Friday, and occasionally they don't match. And by decree, the World Headquarters reports are law. And the reason they don't match is sometimes at the end of the night, the next morning they'll be processing the registration, and they'll try to register this person for a communication program and find out that they've already done it. Or they'll register somebody for the Landmark Forum and find out that they're an S graduate and therefore a graduate.
All right, so I don't think I followed that.
So occasionally they're different. There's no malus.
So
they're different.
Okay, so which one's going to be different?
Is what the leaders report,
right?
And that's produced on Friday morning. But the management final version is done based on the World Headquarters results, and that's a different report. But so that's why this is preliminary. But who creates that preliminary report? Toro. All the reports are generated by Toro.
Okay.
But the preliminary report is based on the leaders' reported data. Here's the leader report is got a preliminary and final, and it's done on different days. Okay. The preliminary is the weekend, and the final is after the final session. So if we go to the 19th of January, okay, so let's see, the 12th of January, yeah. So this was last week's report. It was all done, the preliminary, the Sunday, this upper part is filled in, all that's filled in. And then after the final session, this is all filled in. So there's a preliminary and final leader report. And there's a preliminary and final management report, but the management don't get the weekend data. The preliminary management report is based on the leader information, and the final management report is based on World Headquarters when the results are really final. So,
all right, I think, all right.
But
I
there's
need to
different preliminary.
Stop for a second.
Okay.
I need to back up. All right. So where I'm confused is where you started talking about the head office file being law, but they're not going to equate to something that we're doing. What's that mean?
Like the number of guests. Vicki reported 16 guests in Dallas-Fort Worth at her evening session. And,
all right.
And the next day, the center finds a mistake in that 16. They either found a new guest card that had fallen on the floor and wasn't counted, or they find that one of the guests had actually already done the landmark form and wasn't a guest, or had already done the communication program and wasn't a guest. So they report 15 or 17. On Friday, they report something other than 16. No malice, just an update to what's true.
But that's the final, right? The final says 16. So who gets to put in the 17?
The center.
Not the leader.
No, the leaders already left town. They have nothing to do with the center's report.
So so when you said Vicki put in the 16, so Vicki would put this in what? Thursday night?
Thursday night, yeah, before she goes home.
All right.
At the end of her evening session.
And then the center can actually go in and correct this.
Yeah. It happens occasionally. I mean, they'll find a guest card, or they'll find that something was miscounted, or they'll find that somebody had already registered, or something.
But in theory, they can do that up until Friday at 3.
Yeah, yeah. And when they send in the report on Friday, that becomes the law. So
Right.
Vicki sends in her final results, and the center sends them their final results, and they may not match. And if they don't match, the center results are, well, the center results are always true.
Well, the center results should render this Vicky's kind of moot, no?
Exactly. That's why, but there are people who want to see this report on Friday morning.
Got it, but that's still a preliminary report.
Well, it's a final leader report.
But with preliminary data until the center
That's right.
submits their.
The nomenclature is completely unfortunate, and what you're pointing out to is exactly right. But there's a preliminary leader report with weekend data, and there's a final leader report with evening session data. But this data is still preliminary until the center ratifies it. And the center can change it, in which case, but here's the reason why, Robert. There are some leaders who lead 2 weekends in a row. You know, like Vicky's evening session was Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
So she gets done on Tuesday, Wednesday she flies home, Thursday she flies from Florida up to Washington, D.C. and leaves again that weekend. Her coaches want to see her evening session results.
No, I got that. That's not a problem. It's the process flow that I'm concerned with. The why is actually almost irrelevant to me. Like I could get it. I just wanted to get clear on why there would have been a discrepancy between head office.
Just because the center has more time to verify all of the data.
Right, and so that's all it is. So the leader, before they leave, they'll do their report.
Yep.
And then whatever comes to rises to the surface by Friday at 3, it will get updated.
That's right.
And so basically the last people that have a say in the matter is the center.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly right. So the life expectancy of this final report is 1 day. It's useful only on Friday.
Got it.
Because by Saturday, Toral will have received the world headquarter results and will be building that actual data, that ratified data, into the final report. So she won't reissue this because the convention is that the combined reports supersede the leader report. Okay, so
right.
the leader report for historical reasons is called preliminary and final, but it's weekend and final session is really what that is. The management report matches more of what you understand it. There's a preliminary management report based on the leader data, which is not ratified yet. And then there's a final management report, which is off the world headquarters data. So the preliminary and final for the management is exactly the way you described it. Preliminary based on leader report, final based on world headquarters results. But for historical reasons, the leader report nomenclature wasn't changed to be weekend and final session. It kept preliminary and final, which is a bit unfortunate, but they're used to it. All right, so read your email again.
So it says, why is the CAP TCP GPH average red? Shouldn't it be green?
Right. So in that conversation, in the conversation called Course Leader Results Final 2019, she's asking a question. So we would go to the course leader results leader file. And she's asking a thing about the cap average. She's asking about the cap average TCP GPH and why was that cell red?
It. And so, no, your answer, which was the MA for USA was changed to 72. But so I would never have known that. So all of the history that you're aware of, I have no clue about.
Okay, but
No.
but suppose this was red. How would you find out why that was red?
I just look at the formula
Okay, well, that's the formula.
and the conditional formatting.
All right, so we unhide the rows. All right, so the formula says look at AA9 and through AA11.
Well, I'm assuming the conditional formatting is based, the green or the red is based on conditional formatting, right?
So let's look at conditional formatting. So the conditional formatting says if the cell value, that cell value right there, is less than MAB5 minus, we probably don't need that -5 anymore just because of this rounding. But this is always shown as an integer, but so 74.51 would have been 74.51 would have been reported as 75. But anyway, so this, it was red because MAs of B5 was
Less than.
Probably bigger than that number minus a half. Okay, so let's go to the MAs B5. MAs B5 was that number right there.
Right.
And that used to be 80.
See, that I would never have known.
Well, you would. It would have been.
All my answer would have been is that's the value,
yep.
And that's why it's red.
Yeah, but your answer would have been that though, if let's put it back 80 and then go back and look at the January 19th cell. So you'll say that cell is red because the worldwide MA for TCP GPH is 80. Okay. And you probably would have communicated that to Toral because she was present to all of the MA changes. But you would have been able to tell her that the reason that cell is red is because the worldwide MA for TCP GPH is the one that gives it that, it is the one that causes the color, and the worldwide MA for TCP GPH is 80.
Okay.
Okay, and they changed it to 70. And as a result of that conversation, they changed it to 72.
All right. So basically everything you wrote here outside of that's the number, that's why it's red. Like unless Toral adds in this addendum where you have all this commentary about what was changed and why. I won't know any of that.
You won't know any of that, and you wouldn't be expected to know it right away. You'll catch on eventually. But if Toril would say, how come that's red? You'd say, look, the color is determined by the worldwide MA for TCP GPH, which is 80. And then Toril will go, oh, we changed the MAs, but we didn't change the worldwide MAs. We changed all the other regional MAs. But that would, you will.
So that column is based off of worldwide.
Uh-huh.
And then the one beside it, would that be the regional?
This one?
Yeah.
This is a different course.
That's CPC. Yeah.
So what this does is that this one is the average of those two. Well, it's not. It's the average of those guests divided by those in areas. And the TCP is exactly that number. You know, if you take a look at TCP numbers are exactly these numbers. But these are the weighted average of those numbers. Los Angeles was a much bigger course than Dallas. So, the fact that this was 25 and this was 14, the average is 16, just because when you take into account the size of the Los Angeles course, this has more weight. You actually do it from the total number of in area and the total number of no, it's just based on the number of guests. This one is landmark forum guests. So there were a total of 55 guests. If I take a look at that sum of 55, and their total number of registrations was 9, sum of 9. And then 55 divided by 9 is 16%. But anyway, the answer to your question was, well, what are they talking about? You go from the conversation to the file.
Mm-hmm.
From the file, you can see she's talking about the cap average TCP GPH is here. And then you would do exactly what you did. You'd take a look at the conditional formatting, and you'd see, oh, that coloring is based on the MAB5. And if I go to the MA's B5, it's red because the worldwide, it's colored based on the worldwide TCP GPH MA, which is 80.
And you're subtracting that half a point because?
It used to be that formula wasn't rounded. It used to be that they used the display formatting rather than the round. If I take a look at that, see it's right there. It's formulaic rounding rather than display rounding.
Right.
So it could have been that the real number was, 74.51. And if they say the MA was 75, this looks at 75, and the MA is 75, it should be green, except if I'm not careful, then the 74.51 is actually less than 75, so it would show up as red, even though it looks 75 just because of the integer display formatting. It's probably unnecessary now because of the rounding, but it's left there, just because of, general sloth and inconvenience, and there are lots of places where it shows up. It's still accurate, it's still correct. But the reason it's there is because of the display rounding that was in place when I picked this file up. Okay, now further on in that conversation, and I sent you the email this morning. Zoe made a request to change those averages to be the implementation promises. Remember, there's the MAs and there's the management promises, the implementation promises.
You sent that this morning?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Let me just make sure it was. It's this one at 6:52 this morning, my time. It's course leader final 2019. Point out that TCP is probably the leader file. Let me know if you find it.
So you sent it at what time would that be? I mean,
it would have been 52 minutes after midnight, your local time.
Oh, there it is. $10 ago. Okay, is that the one that there'll be a change to the leader report?
Yeah.
XXX TCP city file?
Yeah, we'll have to check and see if that's actually the true, but change to the leader report, which I've got open. So let's look at the leader report. So these averages are now currently based on this column.
Okay.
And in that conversation, I was told to copy the USA averages into the worldwide averages. If I go into this, if I come into this message, so this is Zoe's conversation. I don't know if you were included in this part, but radical idea. How about we color them, the weekly average, against the implementation promises? And Kathy, Zoe's boss, says, let's do it against the implementation promises.
So what's an implementation promise?
Remember, there's the leaders operate against their minimum acceptables.
Mm-hmm.
And Zoe has a promise to her management, which are called the implementation promises, but they're not always the same.
So it's Zoe's promises.
It's Zoe's promises, the implementation promise. Okay.
And those promises are in which file again?
I'll go get to that in a second. And then Zoe says, I like it. The only consideration is we have to create it with the body. the implementation, our management conversation are, in the case of landmark forum GPH, 10 points higher than their MA. It will have to be created with them and or noted above where the averages are displayed on the weekly performance sheet. So, and then Kathy says, that's okay, they should be in the world of the promises we have as a body for the implementation to be declared complete. You should really create that like a game and update them weekly, okay? And then I said, to clarify, for the leader report, the average is shown to the left of the area that shows the individual courses. The averages in the cells would be colored based on the implementation promises. The courses themselves would continue to be colored based on the MA for the region. Okay? Let us know when you've created this with the leaders and we'll make the change. It's a simple change and can be done easily. And then Zoe wrote back and said, that's right, Jim, what you said is what we want. I will let you know that when this is created with the body, like next Monday's call, alert for my update February 5th. Okay? And then I took Kathy out of it and I added you. And I said, Tora, there'll be a change to these reports. And then this is what we'll do. So the coloring for the averages section of the report needs to be changed to the implementation promises. To get this, get the implementation promises from the combined report, pre and post implementation display. Okay, so let's do that. So we'll open the combined report master, pre and post implementation, and those are the implementation promises, right? For the access to power. And then those will go right there, right? Paste, transpose. Okay? And then we go to the combined reports master and we get the implementation promises for the power to create. Paste, transpose. Okay? And then the only thing we have to do is we can't leave that NA notation there. In order to be an effective course, they've removed these two measures from what it takes to be effective. So that's why the NA notation was there on the promises. Okay. Now, if we look at this January 19th, that's still green, but that's now turned red. Everything else is the same color. Okay? Because we changed these. Okay?
Yep.
Okay? And then
And that other file was the combined.
Yeah, so let's go back to the message. Get the implementation promises from the guiding reports, pre and post implementation display. Okay. Update the worldwide column for both CAP and CPC promises. I'm not sure I'll have to check with Toral about where we do that, but let's take a look at the XXX city file. Okay.
Isn't that something that we would do?
Yeah. So here's the XXX TPC city file. Okay, and those are the MAs. Okay, so we unprotect this. By the way, the password is Jim, J-I-M, no capital letters. I didn't set that, but I'd like it. And if I go back to the Windows and I come back to this leader version, I can copy that. Here. Okay. And then the other thing that we told her to do was this date needs to be changed, right?
So Toral would be doing all of this, not us.
Well, Toral could be doing it, or she could ask you to do it. That's why you were included in the conversation. You want to start, asserting yourself as the guy who makes all of the changes to all of the Excel. Right now, what Toral wants, you guys are kind of a team and can divide it up any way you want. But right now, where it's headed is Toral produces all the reports.
Yeah.
And you own all of the files.
I don't mind that. That's not a problem. So so let's say I'm the one changing all of these formulas. So that would mean that I have access to the master files. So where does that sit now?
Well, right now Toral has the master files.
Right. So how would I get that file?
You should work that out with her. You should start a conversation with her about, I'm taking over all of the changes to the master files. I should have the master file, and you continue to do what you have, but anytime there's a change, you give me the change and I give you the new changed files, but you have the master files.
Okay.
But you should start that conversation with her. But you want to start asserting yourself as
well, how do you do that now?
I'm out of the picture.
No. But before I got here, how did you organize it?
Well, I was both the report builder and the Excel guy, so I had both.
So, but you had the master, right?
I had the master. Now, from time to time, Toral has been producing the reports and then requests for changes to the files. Toral would send me a copy of the file that needed to be changed. I would make the change and send it back to her. So right now, Toral has the master. But you want to start a conversation with her so that you have the source master and she has the working master. And they are the same, except when you're working on something, your master may be under change, and she's continuing to produce results with the working master until your change is tested and approved, and you give her a replacement for her working master. And then you still have the master available to make additional changes. And that's actually a really good setup, and here's why. When I had the master, and the working master as the same file, I had a 1-week window. If I got a request for a change to report on Saturday, or Sunday, or Monday, or Tuesday, or Wednesday, or Thursday, or Friday, I could make changes in the file, but I still had to produce the reports the next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a 1-week window. With you having a master and she having a working master, she can be producing reports. You can be making changes and testing things and reviewing with Nancy and Zoe. Here's what I propose. This could be a new report. Toral's still putting out weekly reports. You're still working with Nancy and Zoe. This is what's possible. How do you like this? I like it. Make this little change. She's still putting out weekly reports. And finally, you got an update. You copy the courses for the 6 weeks that you've been making changes. You copy the courses tab into the bottom of your master. You copy the calendar in, you send her that new file, and she now has a new working master, and you have a new master, and you can start be working on the next set of changes. But it's a brilliant setup, but you guys need to organize that so that
Right.
So that you figure out maybe you guys have a Dropbox, maybe you have a shared Google Drive or whatever, but you want to make sure that you've got the division of labor laid out so that you own the changes to the files, and you give them to Tora, who then uses that as a working master until you give her a new changed file, and then she uses that as a working master until you give her a new changed file, and on and on. Okay?
Mm-hmm. And the master file will be that one file that produces all the others, right? What's that?
Well, remember, there are 6 files, and we did
Right.
that on a previous call.
Uh-huh.
There's the leader report master, there's the preliminary management report master, there's the calendar file, there's the XXX city file, there's the combined report file, and there's the CL results file. So those are your 6 master files. Let's come back to my.
And those right now, those master files, where do those live?
Right now, Toral has them. Toral has all the files. Okay.
Okay.
So the master files. There's the CL results. Okay. 19 XLSB. There's the leader report. Master. There's the management preliminary. Master. There's the ops manager calendar. There's the XXX TCP city file. And there's the combined reports. Okay? So those are your 6 master files. And each week, Toral makes new copies of those 6 into her new folder. So we covered that on another call. So each week, she copies those 6 files. Well, not that one. She copies these 5 files into a new. Well, let's do it right. This file lives in the top folder. These 4 files she copies into the weekly folder. All right. So if I do a top folder and I do a weekly folder, this is in the top folder. The combined reports, the TCP city, the leader report, and the management report are copied into the weekly folder every week. The ops manager, she gets from Nancy every week, and then she copies it in. So this is from Nancy, then copied to weekly folder. But those are the 6 files. The TCP, the CL results file is in the top folder and stays there. Every week there's a new leader results MMDD file. Then she copies these 4 files into a new weekly folder. Nancy sends her a new ops manager folder. Every week she copies that into the weekly folder. So this one, ops manager file from Nancy. Okay? So what you and Toral should relatively soon start to work out is those 6 files, when she has them, are her working masters. And she updates them every week. Then you have those same 6 files as the masters for making any changes to the macros, making any changes to the formulas, making any changes to the conditional formatting, making any changes to the display formatting. And when you've got your stuff changed and tested and reviewed and approved, then you send those files to Nancy. So if now that I know how to do pages, so I do file ownership, OWNER ship. So Robert, so for Robert, you'll own the master files, which is the CL results, ops manager calendar, leader version, management, XXX TCP city, and combined. So you'll own the master version. She has working master. Okay? And then if I do Robert makes changes to the master files. reviews the changes, the changed outputs with Nancy and Toral when reviewed and approved. Send update master with working master data. I'll cover that in just a second. Okay, send new working masters to Toral and new master Robert. So what you guys should work on, and I mean, you'll probably find refinements to this, but roughly, let me just do one more here. Toral has working master of the files which she copies each week according to her process. So Toral, she's got working masters of these files, and she manages those working copies according to her process.
Mm-hmm.
You make changes to the master files to fix errors or create new reports or change existing report. Okay, so you'll make changes to the master files. You revert those changes with Nancy and Toral. When they're reviewed and approved, you'll update the master files with working master data, and let me just show you that in a second. You'll send the new working masters to Toral, and then you'll keep the new masters, and Toral will keep the new working masters for her processes. Okay? Now, if I come back to this, oh, the XXX city file doesn't have any data. Well, it could. I mean, it's got the MAs. Okay? The leader results version has got data. Here's a data tab. Essentially, whoops, I closed the XXX TCP city file. So let's open that up again. I'm going to unprotect this so I can select it. Same password, JIM, no. Okay, if I take a look at this is the stuff that gets reported. And this is just a description of the course. It's the start date, the course type, the leader, the coach, and the city. So that uniquely determines the course.
Mm-hmm.
This stuff all this stuff gets filled in or calculated. So the number started, the number left, the number registered, the number guessed, the number registered, all that stuff. Okay? If I look at the leader version of the file, those cells are exactly these cells, including the empty cells. See how there's this evening session blank column?
Mm-hmm.
If I go back to my XXX TCP city file, there's that cell right there. It's just a blank purple column.
Right.
Okay? So literally, the macro that reads this file selects these cells from started through %TCP TMLP registration and does a paste transpose into that row. Starting here, it just does a paste transpose right there. So just jams it in. So the only thing that you need to do to bring a working master, a master up to date is to go to this data and just select these columns and paste them in. Because all, this January 19th, that value right there.
Mm-hmm. 27.
That 27 is, go to data J through AQ, and if I go to data, there's J, which is the started, and AQ is, well, one beyond the TCP reg. Okay. So it goes to that array and it picks out the row number called this match. Okay. It matches, looks for C10, which is right there, the date, and H2, which is Cape, and H5, which is DFW, in column C. So go to data, column C. Okay. There's Cape DFW in column C. So that gives me the row. That column C gives me contains the key to the row. So I search on that row. So I search on that row, data. It gives me, so the index has got a row and a column, right? So row and the column. So the row number is find that key in column C, and the column number is, a row of H minus 7. So, that number is the first column, that's the second column. See, it's H9, this is H10, H11, H12. So literally this index statement right there undoes the transpose and just inserts these cells right back into the way they came in the XXX city file. Does that make sense, Robert?
Yeah.
Anyway, what I'm saying is all you have to do is to bring this file up to date, if you make changes to the leader report, is to copy the data tab. Just update the data, and it'll update everything in the whole file.
From the leader report.
Yeah, and then the same thing with the combined report. You just take the courses that, say it took you 3 weeks to make a change and get it approved. Tora will have 3 weeks worth of courses in her courses tab.
Mm-hmm.
Copy those 3 weeks in, She'll have a different ops manager calendar in there, so copy that in, send her the file.
So this is the master leader version.
And there's a management version and a leader version, and so this is the master leader. If I go back to the, so these are the 6 files. There's the CL results, there's the combined reports, there's a leader report master and a management preliminary master,
Mm-hmm.
an ops manager calendar. Okay. Oops, that's from Nan. So there's CL results file, the combined report, the TCP city, the leader report, management preliminary, and the ops manager calendar. So those are the 6 files. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And this one's copied there into her weekly folder. So the only ones that produce reports are this one, and this one. And this one, you just update the courses tab in the calendar page. And these 2, you just replace the data. So here, if I do this, update courses tab, update calendar, tab, right? Whoops. And this one, you just update the data tab and update the data tab. Nancy has the, from Nancy, she has the master for this. So she keeps the master for the ops manager file.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have the master for the other file. You'll also have a master for the ops manager file, in case there are changes she wants to the calendar. There haven't been any changes in the calendar file for years, except the adding and subtracting of leaders. But Nancy will send you her version, so you don't really have to worry about that. She keeps the master of that. If she wants a change, she'll send her most recent one. You'll add a new candidate and send it back to her. Okay?
Okay.
But this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, you'll have the master. Once you make changes, you'll update the courses tab, update the calendar tab, update the data tab.
Can you make those different color? Those files?
Maybe.
Not those circles, but the actual the bubbles that actually are that. So just those 4. Just change the color, so I know that those are my masters.
These 4, yeah. Let me just see. Format, text. That one. Format, text, bold. That one.
Should be able to click them all and change them all.
That's probably smart. Format, font, bold. All right, so those 5 files, you'll have the master. You'll make all of your changes, get them approved. But Tora will be producing reports during the weeks that you're working on the changes. And then when you're ready, you'll update the courses tab and the calendar tab on that, and the data tab on those 2, and send her back the new courses tab. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Make sure you run the macros. I want to start getting you into the world of the macros. There's quite a bit to do in there, and but you want to see what those 4 files do. So,
Okay.
you know, so it's the combined report, the leader master, the management preliminary, the ops manager, right?
And it's the same macro to run in all of them, right? That one?
For the combined reports, for all of them, equals CTRL L. Control L for save small. So just run the save small on each of those 4 and see what they produce, and then we'll go through the macros tomorrow.
Okay.
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 All righty. Let me just see. How do I stop share?
There we go.
And we'll see you tomorrow at the 11
o'clock.
11
o'clock.
All right.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I'm going to review this video.